going on, guys? Tundra of Southern Style Off-Road. So you just purchased a brand new 3rd gen Tundra full plate slimline bumper. We're going to show you how to install it. So we're going to switch over to Catlin here.
All right, so before I put tape down, basically this is what I did. Was I just kind of made like a little mark like that. And we're going to make a series of these little marks everywhere that we have a vertical and horizontal body line. And I'm going to show you a trick for here. So anyway, there to 6. Our next mark, we're going to be measuring based off of this crease right here. Okay, this crease does not intersect these verticals, but our measurements are always along this line. So what I did was I take a piece of tape and I line it up inside of that crease the best I can so that I have a nice straight line that intersects across here. Once you have that piece of tape, we're gonna measure from the top of the tape on this inner body line right here on the fender flare, along the fender line, and when I get to 2 1/4, I'm gonna make a mark, same thing. Make a mark here. I'm gonna go to my next body line. That's gonna be the same measurement. We're using this top of this line, following this line here. We're gonna start here on the body line, follow the body line, 2 1/4, make a mark. Our third measurement is a little tricky. You know, you can see that we have a nice big rolled body line coming up here. You can kind of see where the intersection is here. We're just going to try to find that center of that radius there the best you can. Whenever I looked at it from here to here, it was, you know, in this little crease right here. We're going to measure from the crease again, down this body line in the center, 2 1/4. We're going to follow that body line right there. Make a mark at 2 1/4. A little mark. All right. Moving around the vehicle, this is our 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our 5th mark. We're going to be moving around the front of the vehicle, and we're going to be using this lower line here. This is going to be our reference point. Again, we're following the body line. We're not going straight down. We're coming across this way. We're following this line from this body line down. This one's going to be 2 inches. And to help you transition that tape from here to out here, we're going to measure from that top right here, that little corner, down again to 2 inches. Make you a little mark. And I'm a little off, but it's pretty dang close. Coming out to this silver trim piece, we're focused on these 2 lines here. Coming up to our horizontal here, this is our reference. From there, following that body line, 4 1/4. We're going to do the same thing on here. From this line to here, it's 4 1/4. Making our mark, making our mark. Next line, follow that body line, 4 5/8. 4 inches from 5/8. 5/8 is the 1/8 mark past the 1/2 inch. So we're going to make that mark. Bring the camera around here. This is our last measurement. That's that 4 5/8. So we came down from here, making our mark. After we're trimming all this off, this stuff will be removed. So where this grill meets your fog light housing up here in this corner, that's where our last mark will be. There's no measurement there, just kind of stick your marker down in there. After that, we're just connecting the dots. You can see some of my tape intersects. I wouldn't try to bend and flex your tape to where it's distorting it in any way. Nice clean lines. We're not stressing the lines out. We're just connecting the dots. Connecting the dots from all the way over there. And that should give us a nice straight line. This is a path that we set with a laser level. I know most of you guys don't have a laser level. This is the simplest way we can do it. And that's pretty much it. So look in your PDF instructions. There will be some drawings with lines and measurements there to cross-reference. Always measure twice. Once you've done all this, go back, measure it again, and adjust your tape accordingly. All right, so first thing, we're gonna come up here and we're gonna get rid of our 10 millimeter bolts across here that attaches our grill. But before you do that, you have a couple electrical connections that you wanna make sure that you undo, so you don't have that moment where you're pulling it away and you're like, oh no. Do not pull on the wires. Try to hold on to that plastic plug because it will be a lot of force when it decides to come out. There's also underneath this plug, there's a push pin, your usual automotive push pin. There's a center that pulls out, and you can remove it. So you got one here, you got one plug here, 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts across the top on each one of these legs. And then we have 2 more plugs over here. One, 2, and then this is the push pin over here. We're going to remove this. Your usual standard automotive push pin. Take all 4 of these out, and then we're going to move down underneath the vehicle, and they have a few 10 millimeters under there. So, all right, we're moving down underneath the vehicle. There are 4 10 millimeter bolts under here. Here, here, and here. It look like this. All right, so he's removing first 5 bolts in the wheel well, working from all the way from the bottom, was holding on the liner. Now he's going to get his skinny little fingers behind the fender and pull directly out from the vehicle. We want to come all the way up almost to the flat spot. Make sure you have all the bolts out in that area. Like he just did. Make sure you undo the right bolts. Show him the bolts. What does it look like? There you go. It looks like a screw. All right, we're good, Turner? There we go. So if he would have kept pulling, he might have ripped something. So we're away from the vehicle enough now that we're kind of going to do the same thing. That when we get to this portion, we're going to be popping this away so that we can get it away enough to pull out away from the truck. So you can see he's trying to get his hand behind that panel as much as possible so he's not prying on it, he's pulling away. Okay, next thing, once we're kind of pulled away from the corner, there's one more guy holding on right here. Don't grab on this you can't really get your fingers in there, so what we found is easiest is we can this grill's kind of sturdy, maybe get your hands behind it, just pull away from the vehicle. If it's not coming, stop and make sure you got everything undone. All right, and you can see how these clips are kind of designed. They just slip out of the grooves in there. All right, last things last, we're about elbow deep down in here. There's 4 more 10 millimeters. They're connected to a bracket that supports this this mechanical grill that we have up here, this vent system. Got those 4 bolts out, and everything should pull away. I want to show you this bracket though, what we were looking at. There's these 2 guys coming off, and we just took those bolts out of here. If you're prepared, like we aren't, like some sawhorses or a garbage can or something would be ideal. You don't want to, when you lay this thing down, it's very heavy. You don't want to break and put a lot of stress on these, because if you break those plastics, it's kind of breaking some of the structure of it. You have a tape mark here as well that has to be cut. We didn't cut it. We cut this one, but not this one. So we're going to do that and do it on the other side as well. If you have a limited version, you're going to have, or any of them with a bumper sensors, this is what your sensor looks like on the back side. You can remove this out here. If you need to remove the sensor itself, it's just 2 little ears here. You pull them out. and it comes out just like that, and that's your sensor. You can stow that away until you're ready to put it all back together so they don't get damaged. All right, first we're going to remove this center bracket. It's like the little clip. Just push up on this little dongle here, and it releases it. It's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Next we're going to be using our 10 millimeter. I think there's 6 bolts that attach all the way around. There is a special nut that these use, and you need to pay attention because they will fall out, and it's not something you can just pick up at the store. Yeah. We also got a plug up here. Press, pull. It should all come out. I'm gonna set that to the side because we're gonna be reusing this. This washer here, this can fall out. It's got like a square on one side and the other, so be careful when you might want to remove them while you start grinding, because all that vibration may cause you to lose them. Basically, we want to remove everything on the outside of this kind of grill area. So the way this grill is constructed around here, you've got 2 pieces that overlap each other right here, and we really only need this portion of this half. So we have to remove the wiring harness clips. We're gonna remove this portion, and this half should come out. We'll chop it, and we'll replace it back in here. None of this fog light stuff will be there anymore. So now all this wiring harness is now cleared up to this point. You have a break right here where this like outer structure is. We're going to be removing this lower portion. Next we're going to be messing with all these little Phillips heads along here. All right, inside this this front corner, there's going to be some Phillips heads. There's 1, 2, 6. Simply remove them. Before you take this off, make sure your tape is cut, because we just made that mistake. It is cut now, and this will simply remove. And now this is a much easier workable piece. I can put it on my bench, protect everything, make my cut on the top of the line, and then we're going to be just bolting this portion back onto it. We are also getting rid of this bottom half here. We're removing all 6 bolts. I believe we're actually getting rid of that whole portion. All right, so we're going to be removing more Phillips heads. I'm going to remove these 2. This is where the top one meets the bottom, because we're going to have to pull this away. Just work your way down. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now it's a lot of little clips that we're going to be removing. Turner said he likes to start with the valence down here. And it's kind of one of the things where you got to push one, click the next, click the next. They don't really all come at one time. It could be really frustrating. So these pull away, huh? God. You're, hold on, you're caught up here. All right. This almost takes 2 people to do, because you have to hold tension on this while you unclip. All right, so how this works is you got this piece that we want to remove here, but all this, it's attached to this, which is also underneath this top portion. We've removed these bolts. There is a clip here and a clip here, and you need to be able to pull this up so you get some room. Be careful not to break the clip. Now we're going to work our way down, down here to these are chrome. Others might be painted, but there's some little clips here with little tongues. You're gonna pull those away. You kind of gotta keep tension on them, they'll keep popping back in. You got 2 here. That portion should be able to come out now, kind of pulling straight away. This also tucks underneath. This tucks underneath here. And you have to push these down to kind of separate. And this portion should come out. Now it's another one of our cut lines. If you want to paint your parts, this would be a great time to do it. All right, so our goal is still to get this like inner skeleton out, this hard plastic piece that kind of holds all the bits and options and pieces together on these grills. Again, we have this loosened. We're gonna keep working our way down the bumper. Now we'll do like a fast motion of me and Turner wrestling this side so you can kind of see what we're doing. And needle nose pliers are your best friend on this. You just want to be careful. All right, and this one too. All right. Now, just let it rest on top of that. And we're gonna pull up on this lip while you push down each pin, and it ought to let each one come up. Don't forget about them chrome ones.
Chrome ones are hard.
Yeah, hold tension on it. All right, so this is loose. We're gonna work our silver ones. Bop, bop, bop. These two here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And a black one right here. Okay, I kind of had to push each one, and now they all kind of want to go. While he was kind of working on these guys over here. Like I said, it's kind of almost a 2-man job. Everything attached to this colored corner, the clips will be this color. There shouldn't be any clips that are not this color holding on to it. We're down to this center valance down here. We're going to be working these clips along this top of the grill. Turner's doing better than I am over there. It's not moving. There we go. All right. That's our center valance. You want to work these 2 big ones first, so you can kind of pull and keep tension on it, and as you undo clips, you can see Turner's already done half of his. I didn't do very good over here, and he's over here showing me. But you got to get these 2 big ones out, and you're going to pry up, not enough to break it, until you can kind of get some relief out of each one of these clips when you push on them. There you go. All right, so this is the goal. This is what we want. All right. And we're going to be keeping like this much. So now your grill, your bumper, everything is completely disassembled. Unlike any other product we've had to work on, this has been a challenge. Okay, so Turner's cut. He's removed this. We've cut along this line. We kind of peeled all the burnt plastic off. Now we're going to use this as our template to cut our black portion of the bumper. It actually can be cut a little bit past this as well to kind of hide some of it if you want. You can either tape this off or use this as a template. That way you can kind of get, you know, in these deep areas. You may have to remove this to get to some of this back here. But this is now your guide for this portion. And again, it can be cut a little bit short. You just don't want to go past any screws or critical parts, nor past any of this. So we're just keeping this area. All right, so now we're gonna collect our piece that we need to keep, and we're gonna be getting rid of all this. I would go ahead and take this away just in case you want to resell some of this stuff. Get rid of that guy. We're going to be using this again as our template. We leave it off so that we can, because some of this is deep pockets and you don't want to screw up your cut. And some of this, it's kind of jagged. You can sand it, flat if you want. But you are going to have some edge trim, so it kind of hides some of that goofy cuts. There's a rib here. And we're going to kind of use that as our cut line. You don't want to get rid of that because that kind of fills in the gap back here and kind of gives it some support. Without that, it's going to kind of want to crack on you or push on you. So we're going to be following this line here. You can kind of get a judgment of where things need to be hidden. Basically, we don't want any plastic hanging out of it. So I think a good safe line would be along this bottom side of this rib and then down to this corner. Then you can always put your piece back on there. So we want to save this whole portion here, get rid of that. We're using a cutoff wheel on a 4-inch grinder, 4.5-inch grinder, but you can use a Dremel as well. You can see pieces fit together like so. Now this is going to attach back to the grill, and then this is going to be your bumper line down here. Looks good. You see how we still have the flange? This is why we want to keep this. If you don't have this, you're going to have airspace, and this can be prone to be cracking if somebody leaned on it or put too much pressure on it. And we might want to be careful. You just got enough for that screw. You might can kind of reposition, and you got plenty of room here. You can get a little more meat on it. All right, next, now that we have all of our plastic pieces disassembled, we're going to get to the crash bar, about the only thing metal on here. 17 millimeter, we're going to take, there's 2 on top, on either side, and then there's 2 straight ahead. Some models come with this, this air dam system that comes down, big motor. This is all attached to this as far as I can tell, so it should just be these two, we'll be able to remove it. Connected still? No. All right. Ta-da!
That's easy. Throw this away.
So this is an optional thing. The TRD that we worked on the first time did not have this, but
it's just on platinum models.
Yeah, and it looks like it's fairly easy to remove if you needed to remove it. My prediction is that I would hold on to this if you have one, because somebody's going to whack something and break it, and
probably going to be pretty valuable.
It's going to be pretty valuable, right? So sell it on the black market. So basically your winch portion of the bumper is going to fit inside between these frame horns. So this guy needs to be moved. We're going to remove this bolt and detach this clip from this bracket, and there is enough slack that we could just relocate this back up here, and you can fit your winch down in here. Remove that. I believe we're going to unclip this. That. I'm going to snap that in there. We'll run a zip tie around that and hold it up. And it'll be up and out of the way. If you have one of the more luxury non-go off-road models, you probably have this excuse for a skid plate, which is like, I don't know, it's kind of like felt and cardboard had a baby. The way that this bumper is created. It's unique in that it's a two-piece design where our winching portion and our towing portion and recovery portion is all one piece in the middle, and then our our wing protection is another. So in order to mount this, we run these two mounts here into the same bolt holes as our skid plate. Because this is so weird, we're gonna trim this portion along the lower radiator support, so it's not all nasty and hanging out underneath. Just using a razor blade, I'm just kind of following it crudely along the lower radiator support. So now we're gonna loosen these. I believe they're a 12. Crack those loose. We don't have to remove these all the way. The portion of the bumper just has like a fork. Just going to drop these down enough to where I can get my material. Probably want to go a 1/4 inch or more. Next we're going to be putting the winch tray in there. We're going to use the same bolts as our crash bar. 12 millimeter will provide some for you. For this video, we'll probably just be using these. The plate, these 3/8 plates are threaded here, and they're threaded in there. So we created a gap on our skid plate, so I'm going to fork these into these two bolts, and it'll kind of support the weight. Go over the winch plate. Now, as you can see, I'm just kind of holding it up with my knee, but my bolt holes are exposed through these holes, and I'm just going to start a bolt here. I get one started, and in there I can we just want to get all of our bolt, just run them up close, but to where you still have some movement, because you need to make any adjustments. You're going to be loosening and retightening stuff. Got all my bolts started. There's not really a whole lot of wiggle room, which is okay on this. But now everything's started, we just tighten it up, snug it up real tight. Now remember, this is what your winch is going to be sitting. So if you have a winch, this is the time to install it. Drop your winch in here. I went ahead and put this back for this guy because he's not getting a winch today. Installing a winch is installing a winch. The only thing that pertains to our product is these 4 holes. That's where your bolts are going to go for your winch. You want to remove this bracket like we explained, put it back up here, and run your wires up. Make sure you get everything nice and tight though, because you are going to be pulling about 10,000, 12,000 pounds on this. If you have one of these skid plates like this, I would suggest putting some Loctite on these bolts, because this isn't metal. Like, this could be compressed. I would tighten it up as much as you can, maybe even add a bigger washer for the surface, but it is not, if these bolts were to fall out, it's not going to affect the bumper as far as falling out. But you'll know, because this stuff will be coming out. But I'm just worried about it compressing. But Loctite would certainly help that. It's a small bolt. For the aluminum skid plate, it's probably not as big of a deal, Okay, before putting the grill assembly back on, we've got our winch tray in and tow points. If I had a winch is in there by now, and this is relocated up. This is a replacement grill support for all that vent system's kind of heavy on the grill, so this all supports that when we're getting rid of those two little arms. We're going to reuse our bolts, these little 10 millimeters. 4 holes here, squeeze in. Tighten that up, suck it up. I like to leave it a little loose. That way if I'm having any trouble with my grill, I can pick it up and adjust it and then reach back here and tighten it down. So we need to slip this, our little small black piece, under here. You're gonna line that little pin up right there. And here, I'm not snapping anything yet. This portion has to fit around here. So we're gonna get that in position and then we're gonna clip it all together at one time. I'm gonna show you why we have to do it that way. It's all clipped. The reason for that is because this black piece and this piece kind of sandwich the grill portion, so you kind of have to clip it all in at one time. So now that that's all like holding itself together but loosely, we're gonna tighten it all up with our little Phillips heads everywhere that you have one. All right, we're also gonna replace our harness wherever there's a hole still provided to do so. And we'll just tidy up the rest of it with zip ties and redneck engineering. We're getting this portion underneath the top, lining up my pin. I'm gonna start my clips, but I'm not gonna actually put them in. Just gonna get them in the window so that I can put this here. All right. Now, black, gray, painted portion. Once they're like that, everything's lined up, we can snap everything back. Everything's snapped. You know it's in there right because nothing's falling out. Turner's gonna come back in here and put in our screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, after you have your lower grill, center grill part, we're gonna work on our corners. And it's as simple as just lining up these 3 holes here. What's that? What else we have? Okay, yeah. So you can see like the way that we cut it, we just wanna use this, line to kind of trim that off. Obviously we don't want that there. But you wanna make sure, you know, you're keeping as much of this as possible, right? Because this is, every side of this is support for this one hole. And the first truck we worked on had all these broken and it was a nightmare. We're gonna line up all 3. Now that we have our lower grill portion bolted back on, we're going to work on our corners with our grills, side grills. We're just putting in our little Phillips head screws. These are a big deal. I'm going to try not to break those like our first guy had. Not the end of the world if you do, but it's pretty important. That's one side. We're gonna reinstall our special little nuts that I said that you need to hold on to. We're actually only gonna be installing 3 of them on the top. We won't need the other extra 3. All right, placing the grill. They've got little dowels here that help you align it. Just find the holes that are next to the grill, to the screw part in there. Simple. Reinstalling our grill assembly and this with our new SSO bracket. The vent portion goes in first because I have a specially made deal here, and it'd probably be impossible to do the other way around. Anyway, with these aiming towards you, your dowels aiming towards you. There's some slots down here, and those two little tabs are going to fall down inside there. Get around this. There we go. All right, so you can see they're in here like that. And we're just going to leave this a little loose. All right. As you can see in the front of here on our bracket, we have all these little slots. These little tabs are going to need to line up in all those. Don't push it in until you got everything lined up, because once it's clicked in there, it's kind of hard to get everything out. All right, so we're going to be lining it up. All right, we're going to put our top 4 bolts in, just hand tighten them so you can kind of hold it in place, because everything kind of has to kind of settle in before you tighten anything up. There's a lot of clipping. You also have your 2 little black dowels that come down here. The reason we left these bolts up here so I can adjust it. This bracket has some play in it, up and down. I want to line up all my little tabs, but do not snap them in yet. All this extra wiring harness is zip tied up inside of here. We want to get that on top of this bracket before we clip it in, or you have to undo it. We just want to rest all those little clips in there without it snapping. Get our bracket up in the place where it looks good. Then we're going to come back over and tighten up those 10 millimeters. So we got that in place. We're going to work our way around. We're going to start snapping and clicking and popping things back into place. You ready, Turner? We're going to put our push pins in place. You don't have to push them down, but you can. We're going to wait on these. Yep. Don't forget your harnesses. You got 1 on this side on the driver's side, 2 on your passenger. Clicking them back in place. Once we have our bolt holes located, we got our push pins in. We can't forget. It's easy to forget. Our special nuts here that I said don't lose. We're going to bolt these into place. Go ahead and tighten them up. The reason I leave this kind of stuff loose is so that we have adjustment. We're not fighting anything. On this little grill portion here, there's the 2 clips up here. There's 2 clips, or 1 little clip right here in the middle. You just want to line that up. You can see there's like a little shelf right here too. If you didn't break that, you want to set the edge of your bumper up inside there. Then we're gonna, if I can find it. It's a little difficult because you got a little hole. There we go. I think I'm in it now. Line this stuff up. I'm not clipped in, I'm just lining it up, and I can feel it wants to. Same over here. Pop, pop. This grill. Okay, last thing is our fender flare. Just want to make sure all our little pegs are snapped in. And we have to finish cutting this portion off here. Kind of using the existing cut to make a good transition.
going on, guys? Turner. So you just got to your last step on the Tundra bumper. We are putting the sensors in the front part of the bumper and finishing up all the wiring, kind of tucking the wires up and then putting it on. I'm going to show you the first step here. What I like to do before I put it on is go ahead and get your 3M tape and stick it on to the little 3D printed brackets that we included in the kit. So when doing your parking sensors, you're going to notice there's 4. I've already done the 2 on the other side, but you're going to want to make sure you remember which one goes where. On the back side of them, they're going to have 2 different numbers on each side. So on ours, the CA299 is going to be the front sensor, and I paired it with that side. And then on the side is going to be the C1G3. And it looks like they're the same number, but if you do misplace them in the whole process of cutting it and you go ahead and put it back together, always check putting it in reverse and getting a friend to go in front and kind of doing this to make sure that it's on the right side. If he's on, you know, the right side and the left's blinking, what you want to do is pull the sensor back out and swap it to the other side, because they are programmed. You don't want to go to the dealership and get it reprogrammed. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the other side, but just make sure that you put them in the right spots. So we got the tape peeled off on the back of this. The plug needs to go facing down, so you're going to want to go in here. I kind of get on the front of the bumper and line up the hole here. Make sure you sandwich it down like so. And the next step, if you have a light bar and fog lights, if you have your wires coming down, just so it doesn't get sandwiched in between the 2 bumper pieces, I pull it through the little winch access hole here, if you do have those. And on the fog lights, you just let those drape down. Reason being is because right here, all along here, will actually sandwich on the bottom plate. Once you get that done, make sure all the wires are clear. You can get ready to put it up. And so the wires on the actual grill portion itself, what I like to do is just tuck these up behind these 2 bolts up here on either side, just to get them up out of the way. Make sure that they're draping down and not getting caught in between anything. Make sure that your TSS sensor is plugged in back here, because it'll be really hard to get that once the top portion of the bumper is on. And we'll get into putting the bumper on. Alright, so you can either do this with a friend or by yourself. I would advise to do it with a friend, because there are some areas that are kind of close that you need to watch out for. But I normally grab by the bull bar, pick it up here, walk it over, and I use my leg to kind of press up against the top. Make sure the wings are kind of touching the edge trim. And you're going to want to watch the little D-ring shackles on the bottom. Pull up and then press in. Now while you're still giving it some force forward, it can kind of stay in, but I would still give it some pressure. Make sure that the bolt holes are lined up right here, and you're going to want to take your 4 button head bolts on each side, kind of get 1 in just to be safe on each side. So if you're having any trouble putting your bumper on with these bolts down here, the bracket that's inside with the 4 10 millimeters, I'd recommend loosening those up. That way you can get a little bit more reach on this grill. You can move it up and down. And from there, you want to look at the wings on the corner and make sure that each wing on each side is equal distance. So I can kind of see this one's kind of far in. You're gonna wanna kind of pull it so that way it's kind of flush with the fender. Now if we go check over here, bolts about the same distance on each side. You don't want to use this as a point of reference. You want to use the fenders as a point of reference. And from there, you can just finish putting in the bolts. And don't forget, there is a hidden bolt on the back side. You want to get your hand into this winch hole, and it's straight above this hole on the back side of the plate. Alright guys, so that wraps it up for the 3rd Gen Tundra front bumper install. Just make sure that you have all your wires zip tied up nice and tight on the bottom, and make sure that your sensors are in the right spot. We did notice that they are paint matched, so the ones that are black go on the front for the valence, where it kind of went in on the valence on the original bumper. Other than that, hopefully it went great for you guys. See you next time.